on YouTube, and I get close to 16 million hits a month. It is no more a hobby, it is literally my job to podcast, and I think that's what a lot of people want when they start a podcast. So I'll talk more about how to get to that point after these guys introduce themselves.
I'm Dana. I recently joined the Blurcast, which is the official podcast for Vermont ComicCon. Fuzzmond, the owner-operator of that, does send his apologies. He's homesick today. He caught the con funk. And yeah, so I just joined a few months ago, so I probably don't have quite as much to, I certainly don't have as much offer as Armin does, but I can like chip in just stuff I've learned so far.
I am not a podcaster. I just make YouTube videos. And my name is Andrew. That's all I got. Yeah.
It's video podcasting.
Yeah. I mean, it's video games and my face and talking. So I guess it's a video game podcast?
Yeah. It's fun. I see more of you than I see me.
Oh, alright.
My name's Doug. I host an internet radio show called Anime-Zing Radio, and been doing it for about 2.5 years.
So, I guess let's get into this. Obviously, if you want to podcast, you do it as a hobby. I think everybody starts as a hobby, and the reason you would do it and start it is probably because you want to talk about something and you have generally a good idea, or you want to base it on something. Like me, it was comic books. Comic books throughout my life helped me cope with depression and various things like that. So I wanted to convey that to people, and podcasting was a way to do it without showing my face and have this total, protection against it. I guess that's why you podcast. It's only your voice, and you can relate to it. Eventually, podcasting has now moved on to YouTube. Right now, every 10 episodes, I do a live podcast or something like that, where it's me, you can see me, because that gives you more of a personal connection. So, it's a good idea to do something like that. And podcasting also is a good way to pass time. Now, I don't listen to podcasts, I don't watch YouTube myself or anything like that, I'm just not into that, but I understand there's a consumption for it. And I like making that for people. And I think it's a good way because I think everybody's had that moment where they're alone or something, or they're feeling depressed. And my favorite comment on any podcast is when someone says, "Hey, I listened to your podcast, thanks for cheering up my day for talking about something stupid like this." And I'm just like, yeah. And most of my podcasts are 2 hours long. I am not kidding when I tell you, 40 minutes start off with what did we eat for breakfast, what did happen. 5 minutes are running down who's on the show, 30 minutes of topics, and then end it with an hour of nothing related to the show. And that's the best podcast you can do, because the people want to feel like you're their friend. And if you're just out there going topic to topic, and you're kind of talking and you're serious, that doesn't seem to do much because you're not a weather channel. So I guess that's what I could say. When podcasting, that's what you want to do. You want to make a personal connection and push yourself as a human being, not a robot that's just like, and topic number 2 is, that's boring. No one wants that. So talk about breakfast.
On a similar point to that, with when myself and my buddy Cody were invited to join Fuzzmond's podcast, what we'll do is we'll go to his place, because obviously all his recording equipment is there, and whoever else is coming in that night, we'll just sit there and we'll gossip and we'll chat, and after a little while, Fuzzmond will turn on the microphones and start recording. So he lets us just get a good head of steam going. He'll introduce us real quick, and then we'll just pick up with whatever goofy thing we're talking about. Sometimes we talk about the plans for the movies that are coming up, or what we're expecting. We'll talk about, I can go for hours on the exact physics of how Superman's flight works or doesn't work, or whatever other power. You can talk about whatever you want. We've done Pokemon podcasts, because that's really big right now, giant surprise. So don't, like with anything, just what inspires you, there's going to be other people that inspires or that are interested in that. So, and just because someone else does a Pokemon podcast, there's a million of them. Do yours, because yours is going to be unique anyway.
And with the radio show that I do, it's set up where it's a 2-hour live show. So when I screw up, you hear it on the air. We try to keep it kid-friendly, but we do have those guests that occasionally we have to put a stronger rating on it. But I bring in guests, everybody from cosplayers to musicians to the artists that you'll see in Artist Alley, voice actors from Funimation, Sentai Filmworks. So some of the big names that you've seen, we've had Tom Wayland on the show, Michelle Knotts from Pokemon, J. Michael Tatum's coming back on the 18th of September. So we get some big names in, and I set up the show where you get a half hour of me just rambling off whatever's on the top of my head. If there's gripes about things that are going on, because I watch Facebook community from like artist chats and things like that, and there's concerns out there for conventions and things. That's where I usually put gripes out there, or inform people who may not be able to make it to conventions, because I know conventions can be expensive. They're popping up all over the place, but not everybody can spend $20, $30, $40 on tickets to get in, and that's for a small convention. And then we bring the guest on for an hour from about 8:30 to 9:30. And when they're on, I keep it laid back, there's no script. Whatever comes on, I've had J. Michael Tatum interview me. First time he was on, because he found out that I am into the paranormal world. And so he's like, let me ask you questions. So really anything can happen, which makes the show fun and unique. And the fact that Tatum wants to come back for a third time really makes me feel good about that I'm doing something right, because the guests want to come back, and it's connecting to the fans out there. We're still a young show. I just switched networks to the Blog Talk Radio Network, so it's like starting over after a year and a half of work. But I had a lot of opportunities to share my experiences with people. I have some fans who followed me from the old network to Blog Talk, and it's a great way for me to feel like I'm giving back to the anime community, because it helped me get through a messy divorce and things like that in my past. So when you tell people a little bit, like Armin was saying, give them a little bit of your life so that they get to know who you are, and it makes them feel like it's a more personable experience. And from time to time, we open the phone lines to listeners to call in and things like that. We run contests. I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of amazing people, and just like I said, it's a way for me to give back to community. I work a full-time job and a part-time job outside of this, so I don't have the time to devote to promotions and research on animes and guests and stuff like I would like to, but still I do it because I love it, and it's opened up some amazing doors.
So I don't do podcasts, but I guess you could consider it kind of. I just play video games on YouTube, put my face in the corner, scream for about 15 minutes, say a lot of swears, and then towards the end is when I start getting like serious talking to the audience. And really on Twitter is where I kind of started like boom. I started off like 100 followers, and then I started tweeting my thoughts, like I'm like, hey, I'm pooping, and then people would just think it's funny, and then I got 33,000, and now when I say I'm pooping, 33,000 people now know that I'm pooping. And I've been trying to start a podcast, just like on like Thursdays or something, but I don't know who to have with me, because I feel like you can't do it alone, can you?
I do my show by myself. I don't have a co-host that's set with me. When I first started, I had a guy who would co-host with me, but his personal life became so involved between school, military, and his job as a DJ that he couldn't devote the time to the show, so we parted ways. And since then, I will find random people to guest co-host from time to time. Everybody from martial artist Tycho Flores Kyle was a guest co-host. I have Bryn April from Funimation as my co-host tonight. So I find random people to come on, or I'll have a cosplayer come on as a co-host to interview a voice actor who they might admire, or things like that. So you don't need to have a co-host as long as you have an idea of what you want to talk about.
Okay.
And you don't even need a set script. I will have, and you can ask my wife, I'll have 15 tabs open, and it'll be like, okay, on Funimation tab, this is the news. On Sentai Filmworks tab, this is the news. On Facebook, I saw this. Or we go out and Pokemon Go constantly, and so that's been the big subject of the show. Is we went out to Abigail Adams Park in Weymouth, Mass, and saw 75 people run to one area when somebody yelled that there was a Cubone.
That happened to me in the Boston Commons a couple weeks ago. Somebody yelled Dragonite and like 300 people ran.
Oh God, it's amazing. It's like herding cattle, I swear. Like
there wasn't a Dragonite though. You just lied. So like, they threw him in the water.
I saw the video of that. Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that guy.
Because he was messing with everyone.
Yeah. I'm still mad about it.
This actually, there was a Cubone. We did have some people who were being pranksters and yelling random Pokemon, and you see them all go over, and they're like, sorry, it was just because I had my, not a module of the
Incense.
incense up.
Oh, that's not nice.
And so they didn't realize that not everybody else got it because they didn't know that the incense will
See,
lower
this is
something.
how you podcast. Just talk about other bullshit. That's how you do it. So, I guess what he's saying is, you can also do it alone. I've done podcasts alone. We just give your thoughts out and all that. There's also another way, which also we're open to the world of the internet. I do mine on Skype. You can get quite a few programs that are good for connecting you around the world. Currently, my podcast, I guess empire you can call it, because now we're a business and everything. There's 19 of us, and all 19 of us live in different countries or continents. My co-hosts, Australia, England, other parts of Eastern Europe, Texas, Mexico, it doesn't matter. And how I found them, I went onto forums and I was just like, hey, anybody interested? Let's see what we can do, and we made it work. Now, with that in mind, it's not always going to work because you have to have that connection, but somehow for us it kind of made sense, and like we just did, everybody started talking about Pokemon. That's generally what makes the best podcast, is when you kind of have an idea or something that you want to do and talk about it. Now, a lot of our big episodes are the ones where we talk the least about anything that's the subject, which is kind of ironic. Like, we talk about comics, like, okay, let's talk about the new Captain America movie. And somehow, on the topic of it, we ended up talking about X-rated sites. And for some reason, that got so many hits. And we were like,
I wonder why.
Right. And we're
Like extra Captain America stuff?
we went there, yes. And that was
Star Spangled Man.
and people in the comments are like, oh my god, this is the best podcast you guys have done. I'm like, we literally talk about Captain America for maybe 5 minutes, the actual movie. We're just like, yeah, it's great, but have you seen the parody though? That's the quality. That's really the podcast you want to produce. And you want to connect with the right people, the people that feel like you, and you can't have the one person like, I know there's podcasts out there, the people and the member in them, they run by code names. And I'm like, you can't do that. Like, you can't call yourself, oh, look at me, I'm Optimus Max. I'm like, who the hell is Optimus Max? Tell me your goddamn name. Like, just tell me your names that can make a personal connection to you. Like, because I need that, maybe your name is Maxwell. Okay, so just be that on the podcast, right? Don't make code names, because we used to have that on our podcast. People would have nicknames. It just doesn't give you a connection to that person. You need something to connect you humanly, human emotion. And like, a lot of times when I talk about stuff, I like to talk about superheroes, obviously. I like to talk about video games, cartoons, and all that. And people are always like, well, why do you like this character so much? I'm like, well, there's a personal connection with it. So here's the video I did on why I connect with this character. So you kind of make that, work. And you definitely want to, I guess, the best way to put it is just kind of relax, and guaranteed when you do it, people are going to like look at you, and you might get some people that hate you, but that's all right, because that's what people do. So just ignore the haters and move along with it. Tell the stories you want to tell. That's really what to do on any podcast.
And one thing that I found was we had some people that shot Anime-Zing Radio some negativity, but when I looked at it,
My pizza man.
Yeah.
Lifesaver.
so when I had the negative comments and people were attacking the show, instead of getting upset about it, I looked at it as, I must be doing something right because now there's controversy.
Yep.
And anytime that you're taking a step into anything that you do in life, if you're blazing your own trail, taking the path less traveled, you're going to have controversy. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have... None of us here doing the podcasts and the channels have had it easy. We've had cancellations, we've had technical failures, we've had one thing after